I think what we're seeing as an industry is there's a disconnect between what problem we're solving anymore. A lot of times, most agents are just following the prior agent, and when things pivot, that's your opportunity to become that leader in a marketplace. Does the interest rates affect them in any way? No. They could transfer that money right over to a smaller.
Hey, hold on. Before we get back to the episode, make sure you like and follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It means the world to us. And don't forget to turn on that little notification bell so that you get an alert every single time we drop a new episode. If you want to really go hardcore, go binge some of our past episodes, and please leave a 5-star review. All right, back to the episode.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Untucked. Today, we've got the awesome, infamous Justin Berry, who is the broker owner team leader of Plains Paris Real Estate Team, and just found out that he's also an appraiser. So we're going to take this down a whole different thing. And he's based out of Kansas City. Now, I'm stupid Southern, like white guy. Like, is it Missouri or is it like the other one? Like, where's Kansas City?
I think the good side's the side you live. Yeah, the good side's the side that you live on. And I live on the Missouri side. So, if you lived in Kansas, you'd say the opposite.
One time I booked a flight to St. Louis, but I actually booked it to Kansas City on accident. It was an interesting time when I got off the plane. I was like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Sorry. So that was your intro and my just going ahead and serving up some comedic air there. But yeah, we don't want to do a whole big bio because that's kind of what we're going to get into with this conversation. So thanks for being here. We just met. Wayne, you've known Wayne for a little while. So what are you seeing right now that you feel like you need to put a fire extinguisher on, that real estate agents or companies are doing, that you just need to stop it? Just stop doing that shit right now so you can be better at this market.
Well, I think if you look at real estate as an industry the last 40 or 50 years, it's moved more and more from the broker developing business and having agents that just expanded their capacity to outsourcing. So they've started outsourcing production. Primarily RE/MAX did that in the beginning of the 70s, and a lot of companies have followed suit. Now you're looking at an industry where there's products like Redfin and, obviously Zillow. They're trying to find these direct-to-consumer platforms where, we're going to do the mortgage. We're going to do everything. You press one button, we're going to take care of everything on the back end. And I think what we're seeing as an industry is there's a disconnect between what problem we're solving anymore. So the large brands, they're trying to solve the problems of the agent, and they're getting feedback from the agent. But what we really need to be looking at is, what is it that the consumer wants? And are we aligned with that? Because if we're not aligned with that, we're going to become Blockbuster really soon. The consumer doesn't care any more about us than we did about taxi drivers, right? When Uber came about, they don't care. It's just, how do I get better service for less cost and in less time? And if you can't solve that, you're just waiting until somebody else does.
Yeah. Okay. That's strong. Yeah. I like that for sure. So how are you able to figure out what the consumer wants and try and fill that niche? How are you doing that inside your business?
Yeah. So I'm battling that like anybody else. I've got to attract talent and I have to keep them happy. I'm no different than any other broker. One of the hurdles that we have as a team is I don't put agents' faces, names on signs. I have call for instant info. And the real estate ego says, I want my face on the sign. But what I've found from the data is that I get more sign calls when people don't think they have to advocate for themselves with the salesperson. Now, on the backside, we answer the phone. It's instant info. I didn't say it was AI info. I didn't say it was digital info. It just says call for instant info, call or text. So they think they're going to get a recorded line. They're going to get whatever. Now, my agents answer the same way I do it there. I don't really care whose lead it is or whose sign it is. We all share the signs. So that means that our speed to lead is 1 or 2 rings. Now I have agents that are slow to grab the phone and they're upset about it, but I'm not a believer in necessarily positioning myself as solving agent problems. I'm solving the consumer's problems. The consumer wants instant info. If they don't get it, they're going to call the next sign down the street and that person's going to sell their house. So I believe in equal opportunity, but not equal outcome. And that's just as an example, that's one of the problems that we struggle with on our team is realigning our agents with what's best for the consumer. If you can tell me why giving you the opportunity to take that call and call them back 4 hours later is best for the consumer, I'll do it. But if you can't tell me why it's best, but if it's not best for the consumer, then it's not best for us. And that's one of those tough things. I've got to draw the line and say, that's what we stand for. And that's how we're going to get to our goal. And ultimately, you might not be the right fit for our team if you don't align with that. We bump into that over and over. And that's always how I realign it is, okay, explain to me how it's best for the consumer.
So wait a
So
second.
good. I
You're
love that.
worried about the consumer. You're not worried about I say that, I'm actually trying to make a
Yeah.
good point. I say that all the time. Like, we are trying, I want to give the consumer an exceptional experience, no matter how bad our home lives try and fuck it up. Like, that's kind of what it comes down to, right? Like, cause like, yeah, you might have to be on the toilet for some reason. You left your phone in the other room and you didn't answer the phone call. So we did the same thing. Like, we share sign, like we have one sign, they can have their name writer. But my job is to get that consumer in the room or in the house, if they're qualified, as fast as possible for the consumer we've listed it for. And we've been doing that forever. And some people think I'm got two heads when I explain that to them. But I'm like, no, this is what they want. This is what we need to give them. So imagine that, a real estate company that puts the consumer first over, the petty little shit for agents. That's amazing. I don't know how that works.
Let's be fair, I put myself first. No, I'm just kidding.
Love it.
My wife would say I put myself first too. So it all works out.
It's not, it's just not easy to do that. It's easy to go with the flow, but the flow is always going to, flow towards ego. That's how this industry has worked. We attract people through it's like the gold rush. Hey, come out west and you're going to get rich too. 85% of this industry fail. So is the model that we're using in real estate really a great model, or is it just the model that we know? Like Henry Ford, when he came out with the Model T, he said that people would have preferred faster horses. People just don't know what they don't know. And they're like, well, this is the way we've been doing it forever. Why I look at myself as somebody who, if you go back 100,000 years, everybody's drinking from the river with their mouth or their hand, and I'm like, why aren't we using that curved rock over there that holds water? And everybody goes, well, that's because we've been drinking from the river like this forever. Why would we change? And it's like, well, I don't know. That rock looks pretty appetizing. I'm always looking for a better way of doing it. And throughout my life, I think that anytime that I went against the grain, that I found my people. So when I need to recruit, let's say 25 to 30 agents in a 12,000 agent market. You wouldn't even know I exist. Like it's such a small amount to meet all of my goals. Why do I want to make a product for everyone when I can just make a product for who I want to serve?
Yeah, no.
Well, I think with agents too, like that's our biggest blind spot is how things have been. Meaning, like we're like, oh well, it is what it is, right? This takes this long, and this is this, and and that's when a company like Redfin or whatever, these other guys can come in and kick the tail because they're not thinking like a conventional agent, which creates massive opportunity. People are like, why would I pay more to be able to move out whenever I want? And it's like, that's insane. And then it's like, oh, people will pay for that all day long, right? Because they love convenience. For you right now, Justin, what are the consumer problems you're working to solve right now?
It's interesting. There's a big buildup of people that bought 2-story homes in our market 25 years ago. They waited till rates were perfect. Their kids were 17.
By the way, if you have a 2-story house in Kansas, you can see Canada from there. I think isn't that how that? I think I'm joking, and you're not in Kansas, so keep going.
Those are we're Canadian fire towers. We're watching for their fires from here.
There you go, the last line of defense.
No, so. What are their problems? Number one, I've done some research on this, and a majority of the people that have lived in their house more than 15 years didn't refi when the refi boom happened through COVID. In fact, they're either in like an 80% equity position or they have no mortgage at all. So does the interest rates affect them in any way? No. They could transfer that money right over to a smaller home that's newer with less maintenance. What I find it to be more often the case is they just don't know what to do with all of their stuff. As simple as that is, it's personal property we run into more than anything. When we do shop, they're stuck in the mindset of, well, where's my buffet going to go? I've had this buffet since, and just like I've seen people buy houses around a dog who's literally on its last leg, and you're like, it's a tough conversation, but it's also like, you can't make long-term decisions around short-term problems. And for us, what we're doing, we're actually in the process of starting an auction company because we run into the personal property issues so often. Now, on the flip side of that, we end up buying houses a lot of times just because I can say they don't want to go through the emotional part of piece by piece sorting. And a lot of times they're not in the best health or whatever that is. Their kids are in 5 states. And when I can come in and say, well, what would it look like for you if you had an offer that got you to your goal and you didn't have to worry about any of this? I mean, people trade their truck in every 2 years. What's the issue with getting them to their goal? And there's never been a time in real estate that any of my clients, unless they were like moving in with someone, even then they were still focused on their next chapter, not their past chapter. They just want to get the sale behind them. When I can say you don't even have to sweep up behind yourself, you can just leave your stuff behind. Not for everybody, but for a sizable amount of that population, that really is what's their headache. They're like, God, I don't even know how we do. Every year we think about getting the house ready and then we don't.
Yeah. So are
Man,
auctions,
that's so interesting.
are auctions like normal in your market, or is this kind of, I mean, no.
There's one primary player. Like, it's so funny, if I bring that up, they're like, well, this other company's already doing it. And it's like, well, then why are you a real estate agent? There's 12,000 of us doing the exact same thing. Like, what? Talk about a saturated market.
Yeah.
But yeah, auctions are really interesting because you know when it's going to sell. The buyer pays the premium. It always sells for what it's worth. And, you can guarantee that sale is going to happen at a certain time. And to me, that's really attractive because imagine being able to build a system in real estate and know exactly what date everything was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, seems easy to me.
For sure. So being an appraiser, I want to see how this all works in together. So like, do you spend 6 hours doing comps on every one of your listings, or do you just go to Zillow and pull the number? You're like, I'll figure it out later. Like, which one? I want to know what appraisers really do, right?
Yeah. So when I got into real estate and I started doing the home tours and you started watching people shoot from the hip, they're like, this house should be 270. This one should be 290. The confidence that I saw out of agents, while at first I thought they know something I don't know. And really, they're just full of shit. Like, they just shoot from the hip. And we've been in a market where being wrong made you look like a hero. So if you underpriced a home and it sold for 30,000 more, you're a god in your client's eyes, right? Now, the funny thing is when we do the appraisals on the backside, you didn't see a lot of appraisal issues during the COVID years because they were actually still selling below their value and the sellers were completely unaware. Like, just real quick, I'll answer your question, but like an example, when houses started selling in a day, it didn't really matter what happened on your street last, 6 months ago. It mattered what happened yesterday. And agents were still searching for comps by the subdivision. But like in our market, people were shopping 15 miles wide. So what happened yesterday was more important than what happened within proximity. And I found that a lot of agents were pricing and not adjusting to the new market because they didn't understand it. They were just doing this one trick they were always taught.
Yeah.
And it didn't pivot with the market. So when I was listing, I wasn't getting 40 and 50 offers. I was getting 5 offers, and not only would we hit the, where I could prove it would go appraisal wise, but it would still go a little bit above because the market was used to bidding over. In fact, like if you go back, buyer's agents during that market, their clients would ask them, well, what do you think I should bid? And they're like, I don't know. You bid 10,000 last time, maybe 15,000 over this time. But there was no real math to lead them to there. It's just like, well, I don't know. Obviously the agent must have priced it right. So go 15 over. And then you look at it and go, the best buyers that exist in the market, they're going to want to take their family through twice. They're not going to be impulsive. Like the worst buyer you can work with is an impulsive buyer because they're going to freak out tomorrow and they're going to freak out during inspections. I liked having a slower pace. I liked having my listing on for 7 days, 14 days. And all of that came from being able to just see the damn numbers.
For you, I know you're working on this, but how are you teaching your team members and things to price homes?
Yeah, so I built a spreadsheet years ago that my team used and been perfecting it, working on it over the years. And it's based on the same concept that we learned as appraisers. So if you're curious, what is it worth to have an updated kitchen? Well, I can teach somebody in a couple hours, maybe, how to extract that information from the market and not have to guess because it's proven. You can look in the market and there's simple ways of proving it, and they just don't teach that. So what we're doing now, I took that concept and I sent it out to a team, a development team, and they're in the final stages of development on that. It's called Pricer Pro. So we'll be releasing that software. Hopefully end of summer is our target date before the fall events. And it's going to include the basic stuff you need to do the job. And then we can go, as deep as you want. It's a modular product. So, if you wanted to use it for investment properties, you wanted to use it for, being able to farm to a subdivision, we'll have all those products built in there. But you're not going to be taking an AI number and marketing it. You're going to be able to market yourself as an actual pricing expert.
So let me ask this: how much does pricing it right actually matter? Because I can always already hear the kids in the back of the reality of like, hey, I just throw it on there. Somebody brings an offer. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, right? Like, because on the other side too, the agents that educating them on what price to actually offer, they don't know their hand from the kitchen sink most times. So like, I'll advocate for like, it doesn't really matter. Nobody knows what the heck they're doing anyway. And I'd love for you to advocate for like why it actually matters to price it correctly.
Well, again, in the last few markets or last, 5-6 years, I guess it didn't matter. We're quickly moving into the market that I grew up in, which is a balanced market when it's 3 to 6 months. And the typical agent, if you figure that the typical agent, fails out at 85%, most of the agents we know don't know any market but the COVID market. All of a sudden, being able to have a conversation with your client every Monday, like clockwork, is a skill set that's not normal in our industry anymore. And that used to be normal. And sometimes you have to bring information that is just, you're the weatherman. You're like, oh, it's sunny again. It's going to be sunny again tomorrow. It's probably going to be sunny again the next day. But I still have to bring the weather to you every day. So yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
But if you can set up people just want to know what they're getting inside the box. So outside of pricing, they want to know what it's going to look like to work with you. One of my favorite things to say, especially with my team, is I go, do you know what the number one reason, clients are upset with real estate agents is? And they say, I don't know. Well, we get your listing and we don't follow up. Do you want to know what the number one reason my clients don't want to follow, or my agents don't want to follow up with you is? They don't know what to say. So we use this tool. This is what reporting looks like. Every Monday, you'll get this report, and it's going to have a video where we explain what happened in the market that week. And we want to show up like weathermen. My job isn't to make decisions for you. My job is to bring you the best information. So my point of that, Wayne, is I use it to establish what my opinion is, but I'm using it really as a tool to establish what the cadence of working with me is going to look like, and black and white against my competition, which is, most people don't know how to do this. So that means they're guessing at best. And
that's sexy as hell to actually bring data on a weekly basis that's not just kind of throwing stuff against the wind. And I think a lot of times people, either they aren't making those calls, or they're making those calls, they're kind of winging it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, this house sold, we don't know why, is in essence what they're saying, right? Whether because they don't really know how to break it down. And like you said, I totally agree with you that agents now need they need to set up that cadence. They need to set up, it's going to be us talking for several weeks and months. Here's how those conversations are going to go, etc. Because it's a market where, and Brad and I see this all the time, agents are hiding from their clients right now.
Yes.
And they need to be running to them, because if you're hiding from them, they're going to listen to someone. And if they can't tune into your radio, they're going to listen to another station and be way down the rabbit hole. So I think that's a great way of using that.
Yeah, we guide people through this journey. And when the market changes, the trail gets washed out. We have to still figure out how to get through that trail and create a new trail. And our experience is what gets them to their goal. But a lot of times, most agents are just following the prior agent. And when things pivot, that's your opportunity to become that leader in a marketplace.
That's 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And imagine the we do so much work as real estate agents to find potential business, land potential business, meaning get it listed. And then we shit the bed because we don't pick up the phone. And then they fire us and we wonder why. They must just be upset. And so, Justin, it's like we're cut from the same cloth, man. I'm getting back into it with our agents because, again, I came up during the recession, right? So we're talking, hey, buddy, days on market are 6 months, strap in. But every Thursday, business phone call. Every 2 weeks, 6 months, every 2 weeks is a business phone call. At the end of the month, we'll look at pricing, probably not making a price recommendation, but just to make sure we're not out of bounds. Everybody's like fire selling or whatnot. I've never had a seller fire me in 3,500 transactions because of lack of communication, or just call and go, guys, bad news, you didn't sell, but nobody else did either. And your frenemies down the street, they got no showings as well. So it's not us, it's the neighborhood, it's the market, it's the whatever, but it's just people are allergic to having, and they would call it confrontational. It's not a confrontational conversation. It's just it is what it is. And if you take it that way, people will listen to you. But if you start bullshitting them, they're going to see right through it. And I think that's the problem is people either bullshit them or they hide. And it's sad, and it's a bad experience for the consumer.
This is a question for both of you. Is right now pricing it appropriately enough, or do you have to know the price and then beat it right now? What are you guys each seeing in your markets?
It depends on the price point, of course. Right now, Kansas City on that Redfin list that came out last week, it says we're in a balanced market. I went out to my team and they're like, yeah, it depends on the neighborhood. And I think that's true about anything. So that's where being an expert matters. The numbers will show you that. But remember, numbers are always historic. So you have to be on the ground and know, what does it look like to market a home right now? That's where experience is going to kick in. When it comes to pricing, the math should lead you there. And then to a range. It's not going to you should never take it down to the dollar. It should take you down to a range. That should make it easier for you. And then your expertise should say, well, all of a sudden 7 listings just came on. Well, we probably want to be competitive, because it's about positioning at that point. It's not really about value, it's positioning.
Well, I think too many agents right now are trying to justify the price instead of being direct and honest with, here's what I believe the market's telling us it's going to take to actually get picked. You know what I mean? So because we're in a different market right now. Just to pivot away from that for a second, what's been your best way to get sellers? Like what is bringing business to you right now?
I just had a call with Zillow yesterday and they asked me that question. Do you prefer getting listings or buyers? And ultimately they're one and the same. So I use listings to meet buyers, and I use my buyers to meet listings. It's cheaper right now to get buyer leads than it is listings. I think it's always been that way. Listings are generally looking for where are they going to go before they decide to put a sign in the dirt. That they don't like uncertainty. They want to have a pretty good idea of why we're moving. So I still focus on buyers, and then we do a bunch of direct mail. And I do a simple letter that just says, especially if I've got a buyer that is still living in mom's basement, or they have a month to month, or they can buy without having to sell. I take that buyer and I run crazy with them. And I say, I have a buyer looking for a house, and I only send it to 2 stories if I'm looking for a 2-story. I only send it. It's a very specific letter, but it's written as if it's written to everybody. I don't want them to think we stalked their house, but we did.
Yeah.
And it's basically, my buyer's willing to give you time to figure out your problem. My buyer is willing to let you go shop before you sell, and they're willing to pay fair market value. Now, I'm not the one that sets their offer, obviously, but I'm letting them know that I'm not open door. I'm not here trying to rip them off. We're trying to find a solution that nobody else is doing. And I kind of end the letter with, if you're interested in exploring, making a move in a less stressful manner, reach out. And I'm coming from a different angle. I'm not trying to, there's a lot of letters that are like, I could close in 7 days, cash, blah, blah, blah. That's actually scary to somebody that doesn't know where they're going to go. They're like, their mind goes, I can't sell in 7 days. I'm like, whoa. I'll do it in 7 days. I'll do it in 7 months. What's best for you? And I've got a buyer that wants a house like yours so bad, they're willing to do it.
Yeah, that's a great way to do that. I think that's very brilliant. Is there anything else working? So direct mail is working for you. What else? What's your second best?
I mean, obviously referrals. Really, that's my number one for listings.
Dude, I love it. Yeah.
I can dial the number up any day.
What's been helpful is the kind of same concept is we've started using Fellow as a back end. It plugs into our Follow Boss, and we have 50,000, 60,000 people in our database. So I can go through, and if their address is in there, I can see when they bought it, what they bought it for, how much equity, what their interest rate is. And then now with buyers, I can go, here's 100 people that we have their information that may be the house you want to look for. And now we can really dive down. So that's been really helpful to identify potential seller leads instead of just kind of sending tax data letters out to everybody. But it's work.
We're not using Fellow, but I will definitely look into that. We're doing the same concept though. Not my buyers don't generally buy the house. So how does that work out? Well, I've just demonstrated, like you think about, what does the public think of a real estate agent? We don't do a lot of work. We get paid a lot of money and we go on vacation a lot. Or, it doesn't take much to stand out among my competition. So instead of telling somebody I'm the best agent, I just demonstrate it. The sheer fact that I sent a letter, showed up, I didn't hard sell them, and I treated them like a client before they were a client. And they've at least felt what it looks like to work with me. More often than not, it's their idea to list with me. Because what happened whenever this happened? Well, they get a letter and it says, hey, would you like to sell? Yada, yada. What do you think they do? The first thing they do is hop on Zillow and start looking for houses.
Yes.
Now they're emotionally moving. And then when it doesn't work out, inevitably, which maybe 1 out of 10 buy the house, I still follow up like I would if I was their agent and say, hey, here's what they said. Here's what they're seeing in the market. Here's the feedback. And if I were your agent, this is what the advice I would give you. And I don't say, would you like to list? I don't ever go for the throat. And then I just ask for permission. If I have somebody else, which we get buyers all the time, would you be cool if I reached out to you again? Well, absolutely. I hang up the phone. It's more often than not 2 or 3 days later. Remember, they got their house ready. They had one showing and they spent all weekend. Their kids came in. The house got put together and they go, well, what would it look like just to go ahead and put my listing on? In fact, I just got a text while I was sitting here right now on an off market that I was working. And she literally texted while I was here, I am interested in selling my 4 townhomes. Are you interested in listing it for me? And I only brought one buyer through.
Great.
You responded back that you were busy
$850,000.
though, right? You said, I'm
Not
busy.
yet.
I'm on a podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But it works, and
Dude,
to them,
so good.
they think one butt, one seat, right? But we all know that it takes 50 butts to find the right butt for the right seat.
Yeah.
Your typical buyer, they think I can put my house on the market. Somebody else is going to love my house. The first buyer that comes through that open house is going to buy it. We know it's not true. It takes exposure. So I just use that to my advantage, and I might expose them 2 or 3 times, and it might take 4 months, but we just kind of constantly, hey, is it okay if we bring this other one through? I don't make them sign anything.
How do you track all that shit? Like, that sounds like a tracking nightmare. How do you keep up? I can't remember my kids' names most of the days. Like, how do you do that?
An ugly spreadsheet. And that's why when you said fellow, I'm like, okay, I'm interested, because this is all done manually on a spreadsheet.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm a fan of what works. If it's working, it's working. All right, let me pivot and ask you guys this question. Is buyers right now having better conversation, or is it finding the right ones? So is it finding the motivated or talking those that are in the fence off the fence? If you had to pick one or the other, what's the answer right now?
I think it's like every year. There's never been a year where I sold and buyers didn't think they were standing on a cliff and afraid to take a step forward, right? Even 2013, the market was down and they're like, well, it could go lower. Like they didn't see the opportunity. They always want to buy at the bottom, which is funny because they end up buying at the top more often because they're
So
motivated by
often.
the fear of loss. So watch interest rates. They'll go down.
Yes.
They're like, well, I wonder if they're going to go lower. Like, no, this is it. And they go, okay, I'm going to wait. And then they jump up half a point. That's when they want to go shop. They're afraid it's going to go higher. I don't know. It's part of their journey. I don't believe in real estate we talk people into doing anything. The same way you walk into a Rolex store, you didn't walk in there to be talked out of a Casio. You walked in there because you wanted somebody that knew about Rolexes to make you feel confident about which one was for you, right?
Correct.
And when they're reaching out to us, they're making an emotional decision. I just don't think we're ever going to beat their emotion with logic. So we're better off being their friend. And when it's the right time for them, it's the right time for them. But one of my lines that I do use, and again, this isn't to talk somebody out of it. This is usually when they're already looking for confirmation of what their decision is. And I'll simply say, were you going to wait till your kids were 17 to buy the minivan? Fortunately, interest rates don't always align with your life. And that's just part of life. I mean, it's great if they do, but ultimately it doesn't matter. We still have to live life. And I would hate to see you buy the minivan when your kids were 17. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people wait to buy their house that they wanted their kids to grow up in when they needed a mortgage payment that was $200 less. And I think you just have to, again, I'm never talking somebody out of it. I'm only confirming their bias already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the emotional journey is something that a lot of agents have not got phenomenal at on the buyer and the seller side. Like, stop rushing through, take a breath, right? Help them through the emotional journey just as much as the logic side. Yeah, very, very, very important.
I think to answer
you're not going to build
I was going to say to go to the point with the buyers, like, I think any buyer is a good buyer if you have your systems in place to kind of know what kind of buyer they're going to be. So if they're going to be a long-term, hey, I'm looking for a, New Orleans style house and you only have 5 in the whole city, then like, hey, I'm going to keep in touch with you, but here's how it's going to work. Or if you've got somebody hot to trot, then you get in. Like, I don't personally think there's any wrong buyer. I think we as agents have not done a good job of putting filters in place to know how much energy we need to give them.
And a buyer that shops
a
forever,
great way to look at
a specific buyer that shops forever is my favorite buyer to use letters for. When they go, I don't know, I could buy anything. I'm like, well, I can't market the whole city. You give me 5 houses, I can follow up every quarter.
Yeah. Yep, that's so good. All right, let's pivot for a second. Now, I want to ask you, and this is where we may get to fists. I'm not sure. Give me your opinion and your philosophy on setting goals. And as a coach, if I go to the corner to weep for a minute, like, just bear with me. But no, Justin is such a badass. I love what you've done and everything you're doing. But like, I would love to hear your take on this, because I think that there may be some truth in here. I'm not giving up yet, but there might be a nugget or two in here. So Justin, give us your take on goals.
Yeah, I think that people do business different. One of the cool things about real estate is you can be an introvert and do well. You can be an extrovert and do well. In fact, I've never met there are 2 people that do real estate the exact same way. So that's the beautiful thing about real estate. I'll probably speak for the ADHD crowd out there. I fall heavily into ADHD crazy, but I'm not really a big believer in planning. I'm a big believer in manifesting. So I think it's really good to have a clear idea of what it looks like to get to your ideal lifestyle. I spend a lot of time not necessarily fantasizing about driving the Ferrari, but trying to think about what the new problems are going to be. I feel like that's going to be an easier way to manifest. So for instance, before I had $40,000 a month in expenses, because I knew what that next level would look like, I thought about it. I thought, well, these are the costs are going to be. What is between me and getting there? Who do I need to become that person? And I think it really came down to, I need to be the guy that's comfortable cutting $1,000 check on a month we didn't make money. So when I was spending $20,000 a month, I already started telling everybody, yeah, running a brokerage is expensive. It's $40,000 a month. And I just started testifying that into the world. Well, next thing you know, that is what my expenses in life, become. But I also hit my goals at the same time. So I don't want to just manifest positivity. I have to be okay with negativity. But every time I've ever made a plan, it's never gone to plan. There's a wrench. Every year, I go, this is the year we're going to do this. And I decide I'm going to map it out. That's the year that commissions change. That's the year COVID hits. That's the year the crash happens. It's never went to plan.
So do you have a cadence throughout the day, the month, the year that you kind of go through to kind of reassess, realign? Like, how do you go about that? So, because I know you're not flying blind.
No.
But you're also not making such a rigid plan that this isn't going to actually happen. What's your kind of cadence to that?
I mean, in some ways you do kind of feel like you're flying blind. I know I'm not. I've got a very clear, I can see it's like looking at the top of the mountain. I know I want to get there. I don't necessarily know what ravine I'm going to come across. The trail that I thought was there is now washed out. I just look at my ability to pivot and deal with uncertainty and not stop or turn around as I'm not going to quit. You start hiking, you can't map out the entire way to the top of the mountain. You're going to have to get to a spot and use your best judgment. So every day I just give myself permission. In fact, if we talk about your superpower, my superpower is my ability to just stomach uncertainty and keep moving forward and not freak out and not stop. Now, your team, they need you to make decisions, and every day something changed. Real estate markets change every day. So to me, it's just staying really clear on what's important to me and what does it look like to win? How do I know I'm at the next light pole? And if I can't identify that, then I'm just running in circles. And there's been plenty of times where I was just moving in a direction because it was the next logical direction. Opening a brokerage was that way. Well, I got a team. Hell, by the time I'm doing this, I might as well have a brokerage. Sometimes you have to stand there to realize what's important about that and not. But most people in real estate, they're making the next logical choice that somebody made in front of them. To me, it's how do I do this in less time, have more time with my family? And that's kind of my guiding principle now. So real estate's the catalyst that gets me to my goals. Real estate isn't my life anymore. And I think that's a big change for me over the last 3 years that I wish other real estate agents would see, that there's a way of using real estate that goes with your life, not against your life. As you said, we have to, there's times where you have to do that, but.
So how have you done that? So I know you're working on some book stuff. I know you got the appraisal thing coming out. I know you and I are both really big on using virtual assistants to help us grow our lives and our freedom. Give me a snapshot into some of that. What are some of the nuggets or things you could pull out to share that would be really valuable to help people? Because I think most people, they get into this thing and they forget why they got into it in the first place. And we live in such a stupid hustle grind culture of hey, if you're beat up and feel like shit, you must be doing something right. And it's it doesn't necessarily compute with me. We have to work hard and there's, but it's just, I think it's a bunch of baloney. So where are you headed? Give me some of the nuggets that you can share.
Yeah, I don't really like consistency. I'm never going to be a miracle morning person. I've tried it. It's just not me. And that's okay. There's plenty of, look at a Richard Branson. He isn't doing business the same way as Elon Musk. They're not the same people, yet they're both successful. And again, in real estate, everybody does things different. I think the trick is really building a system around your strengths and weaknesses. My weakness is I don't really want to finish something. I want to start it. I want to make the mess. I want to do the storyboard, but I don't really want to do the final edits, right? So what I do is I mean, because I can hire at a lower cost than an American hire, and I can hire A quality talent in the States, number one, wouldn't want to work for me, even if I could afford them. They'd rather go work for a corporation with stock options and all that stuff and a corporate ladder that I just can't provide. I can find A talent out of the Philippines for, $5, $6, $7 an hour and find people that really enjoy doing the same things every day, consistency, like clockwork. and allows me to go, be that crazy risk-taking CEO that they need to have a job. Like, you don't need that if you're going to start a McDonald's. You could be a implementer and just take what already works and implement it. And real estate's that way. Like, you don't have to be me to do real estate. And I'm not any better at real estate than a lot of people that are just, like clockwork. But to do the things that I want to do, which is bringing solutions to real estate agents, I have to live in a space where I have some creative freedom, and I'm not drugged down to the factory floor every day trying to figure out why a belt's squeaking. Somebody else is better at doing that and enjoys solving that problem. For me, that's distracting and keeping me from the thought. I don't like the word thought leadership, but that's really what I'm doing. I'm spending a lot of time trying to find solutions for people that I see struggling.
So what would you say, what do you want the impact of your work to be? So in other words, and not necessarily on the real estate clients, but on your agents and on the other people that you're able to impact. Because I know that's really where your heart is headed, right? Is a lot more of this, a bigger or a different impact. You know what I mean? So like, what's the impact you're hoping to make in the next several years?
I can't remember the quote exactly, but like Jim Carrey said, I wish people could just have their $10 million and their, 15 seconds of fame and just get it over with and realize that, have the Ferrari and all that, just get it over with. I would love to have that type of impact on people. I love the idea that I'm imperfect. I barely graduated high school. I shouldn't be successful. I love giving that permission to other people. And I think it would be great that, at my funeral, people that I barely even knew said, I'm glad I met Justin because he did this, I did that. Like, that's who I would like to be if I could choose.
And what are some of those things? When you think about that, what are some of the decisions you hope they make differently than maybe they are right now? Like, what's the impact you hope that they, like, very practically, what do you hope they do?
I hope they don't have to live in fear. I built my business on fear. I had that imposter syndrome where all of a sudden I had money and I felt like I could never make it twice. And I lived in scarcity far too long. I missed my kids growing up because I lived in scarcity for far too long. Even when I wasn't there, because I didn't identify what safety looked like. Do you remember when you got in and you ran the calculator and you're like, if I just made this much money, my life would change? And then you get there and you're like, well, that didn't change. That didn't change. And you just keep chasing it. But I just don't think that we clearly identify what that milestone looks like and who we're going to be when we get there. We just assume that once we get there, everything's going to work itself out. And I don't think that's true. So I hope this changes. If it's not the only thing I do, but right now I'd really like people to have time with their family because I didn't have that. So like they say that your purpose in life is to find the thing you struggled with the most, overcome it, help other people overcome it as well. Like that's what I'm doing right now. I learned how to overcome one thing. I don't know what the next problem is, but as I solve that problem, I want to help people solve it as well.
And how would you define the thing you overcame?
I think it's just money's diminishing. I mean, you have to have money. You'll rob a gas station to get out of scarcity, but then after a while, it's tough to recognize that time becomes really important. And I think that's where most people, like for instance, when I'm working with somebody and they're getting ready to go buy a bunch of Zillow leads, I go, well, how did you build your business? And they go, well, just like everybody else, I hung out with my clients. I didn't have any money. I went out and I took care of my friends and I went to coffee and lunch and brunch and I got involved in things. I go, okay, cool. Why aren't you doing that now? I don't have time. So like, that's where virtual assistants come in, helping people, hire so that they can spend time on the things that they're already good at. Like, that's how I would initially define that in a one-on-one conversation, like in a deeper conversation, really recognizing what's important to you, how much money you really need to have to be happy. And when I work with, I coach as well. And it's not uncommon. I have, somebody making $500,000 and they go, well, this next year, I want to do $1 million. I'm like, that's how we're defining success. And I say, great, I'm in, as long as you can explain to me why $1 million is going to make things better. And they get stumped there because it's just the next logical thing. You did 500,000. Right. And I go, well, what was the number when you started that you said, if I could just get here, I'd feel better? I was like, and did you feel better? No. It's like, why don't we figure that piece out first? And what's funny is when we figure that piece out first, more often than not, they get to their goal, but it was because they built a system and they built a team. And by the time they built a team, they got to their goal.
Well, let me ask a question as asking for a friend here. But I mean, we have all had those conversations, right? I mean, I don't know if you have children or not, Justin, but
I do.
They're like, hey, time goes fast, right? We all heard it, right? I'm assuming we did back when we were 20, 21, 22, but yet we still took the same path, right? So you call it ADHD or whatever, but it's the entrepreneur bug, right? It's the work ethic. It's the grit. Yeah, right. It's the grit. And yet we want to look back and be like, I would have done it differently. But ultimately deep down inside, I don't think I would have, because I wouldn't be where I am today with I don't know. It's almost like some people are trying to like chase a mythological status on their mind of being like, hey, I'm happy, everything's great. But they would be really upset poor as well, you know? So I don't know if it's achievable. I think it's just stages of life. And so like when you're coaching somebody that's 25 and somebody's 40, it's just the stage of life is different. But I don't think my personal, and this is going to get some hate mail, I don't think there's a way to like have it all. And I think you have to always give up something to get the other thing. And if you're a driven person, you're always looking for competition. And I feel like our trophies these days is cash in the bank. That's the only way we know if we're a better soccer team than the other team, in my opinion.
Well, and I
Not
think
saying
a
it's
huge
healthy.
part of it though is to begin with the end in mind. And I think that's what all of us are good at doing, is helping our clients or agents time travel into, hey, so if you do catch this tiger, like, then what? You know what I mean? Or like, hey, you do make the million and it takes blank. Like, where's, like, you know, and helping them paint that picture, I think that's in alignment, like you said, with the stage of life they're at, because whatever it is, like if you're 21, like go knock 400 doors a day. Like, let's get after it, dude. Like you need to get out there. But it's helping them paint that picture, I think, because so many of our clients have built, and Brad and I get this all the time, they build a success and then they're like, shoot, I think I hate this thing.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have someone help them future pace or see what that was going to look like or led to. So for you, Justin, it's like helping them paint that. What do you want life to look like a year from now? What do you want your ideal week to kind of be? Okay, cool. If that's what you want, how do we build and what do we put in place as far as systems, leverage, help, whatever it is to actually get there? I mean, so many people start lead generation tactics that they're going to hate. Right? Like, I want to end my day at 5. Cool. I also want to pay for Zillow leads and answer the phone till midnight every night. Like maybe those don't align. So I think our big opportunity is to help people cast a vision and then get into alignment around that actually makes sense and help them avoid some of the pain along the way.
Yeah. So number one, I think that, you know, we're athletes in our own right. That's what when we talk about grinding and so forth. I think we understand athletes. We know what it's like to just get up and do the same thing, knowing that we have a goal, right? Even if it's not fun. We all know this isn't you know, Netflix real estate, right? So we go from that. I think that the scorecard is money, right? I would kind of disagree. The people I was the most jealous of were the ones that were on trips with their kids the most. When I was watching Facebook, I'm going, God, I hate that he gets to go do that. Like that's where my envy was. And if you look at that, you realize that money was diminishing and time and quality time was the actual value. And I was envious and jealous because at one time I couldn't figure out how to have money and that at the same time. So then you go and you say, well, there's wisdom and there's smart. Wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes. Smart is learning from your own. I'm obviously a person who's very smart and not very wise. But I think if you're sharing your wisdom and you're being authentic and sharing what the experiences were through there, people are still going to go through the same journey, but they're probably going to do it faster than you did because they've already, as long as you're not sharing the wins and you're sharing the struggles, they're going to go, oh, this is that thing, pop. And they know how to pivot quicker. And now, you know, at least they've got a map to get there. And then when it comes to coaching somebody on recognizing all this, kind of what you were trailing up with there, Wayne, is I want to ask them, instead of the money, it's like, what would the money do for you? Because that's how we describe the light pole. Why do we need $1 million? Well, because it's going to do this, 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 and this for me. Great. Yeah. What if we stopped worrying about the million and we just started worrying about accomplishing this, 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 and this? Then you would know when you were to your goal, right? Because what's going to happen when you hit your million and you still aren't at your goal? What's that going to feel like? What's it going to feel like to be super famous and you find out you're lonely? What is it? You know, what are the downsides of these things? Yeah. And what if you could do all that with the money you have now? Like, why are we even focused on the million? Like, we should identify, what does it take to get you to your goals, and then backtrack that, make the money support it.
It's so funny when we have people write out, like we'll do in one of the coaching things they do throughout the year, we'll have people create their bucket list or like all these things. Here's all these things I'd love to have, right? The big things. It's amazing how many of them they can actually go do. It's one of the greatest ahas. Like, write down the 50 crazy things you want to do, right? And like, they get to the end of that and they're like, holy snap, like I could do 10 of these in the next 60 days, you know? But like, I love that. I think that that's so much of the key of coaching and all of what we're doing is creating awareness. And I think awareness in and of itself is transformational. And I think that's a lot of what we do, giving people the tools and things like that, but the awareness is such a huge piece. All right. I got some rapid fire questions, but before that, what do you think is, and then I'll let Brad ask one, maybe. He has been nice to me kind of today. All right. What's the hardest pivot you think coming up for most real estate teams or brokerages? What's the hardest pivot that they're going to need to embrace?
Well, I think they're going to have to embrace that you're going to have to become a pro, that there's going to be options in the market that are mediocre and available everywhere. And if you're a mediocre option, number one, you should be replaced. That'll get you guys some hate mail. Don't share my address. But I do believe that if you're not doing better than what AI can do, then you should be replaced.
Yeah.
You're going to have to up your game, even if you are good. Good's going to become the normal. Excellence is going to be the new good. Impossible is going to become great, right? And with the AI tools, you're going to be able to do things that were once impossible. So the great people in any industry are going to have to figure out how to do what's impossible and use AI to do it.
Well, and I think that's one thing you and Brad are so good at is you both raise up experts, and you both raise up pros. And there's a lot of people out there that they didn't have to be experts. They didn't have to be pro and they got away with it. And now it's going to be critical. So both of you highlighting and sharing that is going to be huge.
Yeah. You're going to have really sticky relationships, because your phones are going to know when you're talking about real estate, and every one of your clients, as soon as they have the thought, they're going to be getting bombarded with AI. Your relationships are going to have to be sticky. I actually think we're going to go further back to brick and mortar, as I can't tell. I don't know right now if Brad's AI or not, right? Is Brad fake? I don't know.
Not this size head. AI would have got he would have got the proportions right if it was AI. This not bobblehead. Sorry.
You give it a year out. I can't tell. My wife and I fall for stuff. We're scrolling. And it's like, oh my God, this happened. I'm like, I don't know. Go fact check it. They got us. Like, there will be a time where I don't think we trust people unless we can get face to face. I think it comes all the way back around to where it's like, if I can't come in your office and kick you in the ass, I don't know if you're a real person, right?
Yep.
And I think it's going to get worse and then it'll get better, but it really comes down to, and this has never changed. How many people can you be belly to belly with and in relationship with?
Absolutely.
If you can figure out how to use AI to keep you not farther from your clients, but to buy back your time so you can be with your clients, you're going to be fine. The day that you decide to rely on AI to be your relationship maker is the day that you just got replaced by AI, because it doesn't need you to be in that mix.
Yep.
I think one of the big issues we're seeing right now, and this is going to get some hate mail. I'm an independent, right? At heart. That's just where I love having my real estate brokerage. But I had a good example the other day. I had one of my agents has a listing. She told me a while back, hey, the buyer's agent never asked anything about commission, not in the contract, not any which way. What do you want me to do? I was like, well, let's talk to our client. Of course, client's like, well, don't bring it up. So we solidify the deal. We're going to close next week. And homeboy decides to send over a compensation agreement. So again, we take it to our seller. I call the other broker who I know very well, very respectful person, works in a very big company. And she's like, well, yeah, he hasn't been coming to many trainings. So it's going to be a hard lesson for him to learn. And I'm like, holy hell. And she's good, right? So the problem I've been seeing is they were smooth waters, and the whole thing about, rough seas make good sailors kind of thing. We haven't had those rough waters, and nobody put the training into the people. And so I think a lot of sailors are going to be looking for a new ship because, again, it's such a weird environment, and we're going through I don't think it's a rough patch. I think we're going back to normalcy, and people aren't preaching that. People are just preaching, go do this, go knock on doors, go do open houses. And it's not actually fruitful for what they're trying to achieve. And I don't know. That's what I see is coming down
the road turned 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, the road turned 2 years back, and people are still driving straight, but it turned, and they just know what they know. It's skill sets that just are not there now because they didn't have to be. If you ask somebody, like, there's this rose-colored look of like, I miss the COVID years, because anybody could get their license and sell a house. Well, what did the market want back then? They wanted availability. There's nothing you're going to do. The best agent in the market isn't going to out negotiate when there's 50 offers on the table. It's just the best thing you can do is have a good relationship with the other side. Ultimately, the market wasn't looking for experts. They were looking for availability, constant being on, and Pop-Tart go. So anybody can get their license, enter the market, and take their piece of the pie. Now that the market has uncertainty, there's a lot of things they don't know right now. The commission things is one thing they don't know. They don't know what rates are going to do. Now they're uncertain, and now they need somebody that makes them feel certain. They need the Rolex salesman who walks them through the path and says, you look better in a 38 than a 40. They need somebody that gives them the confidence to do it.
So one last question, and Wayne, jump into your rapid fire. So gun to the head, you've mentioned a couple times, like 85% of people wash out. So gun to the head, how do you solve the 85% falling out? Because they can't all be bad. They can't all be horrible people or horrible agents.
Well, I think we have to meet the market where the market's at. One of the things we've considered, I haven't launched yet. I think this is the best move for the industry. So this is one of those that I can admit that I teeter on because I got to keep my agents happy. But I want to offer, I want to be able to be Mako. I want people to be able to walk in and say, you know what, I just need a cheap paint job, or I need a great paint job. And we offer all three options, right? Every other product in the, that's out there generally has three choices. And we have the one. I'm 3%. I do everything you want. I don't know that the market cares, and it's not our job to make the market care. It's our job to meet the market where the market's at. What I would like to do is offer a 1% where we're buyer's agent. I have an entire team that works the 1% market. Now they can upgrade that person, because I think that client's going to run into a wall when they don't get. It's going to be a transaction broker in our state. You could be a transaction broker agent, and you're not able to give advice, but you can pop doors, right? And we could charge them 1% for the opportunity to do that. Or we could do 2%, and now it's designated, but it's still among the teams. So you're not going to get the same agent every time. It's going to be who's available, but we can meet them where they're at. They need somebody that can pop doors, be available, and now answer questions. And if they really like one of the agents, that gives the agents the opportunity to upsell to a 3% or maybe a 4% package. Yeah, you can work with me directly. And that we basically, at the point that they would upgrade, it would just basically tip out the lower agents from like the 1% and 2% mark, for instance, divided out by how many showings they had. And it would give them small checks, medium checks, and big checks. That's a way that I think I could solve a problem for agents to have a more plateaued, experience in real estate versus the porpoising that they're used to, big checks every once in a while. What if you had small checks, medium checks, and big checks? And it gave them momentum, but it also gives me something to pitch the market that everybody else is afraid to do, because they're looking around going, I don't know, we've always drink with our hands. And I go, why though? If the market doesn't want, we keep trying to convince the market that we are what they need. But, to be honest, when the commission thing came about, somebody had said, well, 30% of people will probably not use a real estate agent now. And I go, well, I bet you 30% of people have a real estate agent doing it their first time every time. So is it really that much different that you figure out how to go through the process yourself versus having an agent who doesn't know what they're doing? And they're so motivated to get this done that they're selling from their own wallet. Is it really the worst thing that ever happened? If you weren't part of real estate, you would probably agree with me. But if you're part of real estate on the inside, you see it as a threat. And I think that's where we screw up in this industry, where we're trying to see it through our lens instead of looking at it from the clients that we serve's lens.
Yes,
yeah, I'd be curious to see you pull that off. I think it's a great idea. It pops to mind. Seriously, no, it really does. It pops to mind though, like Toyota, how they split off Lexus though, because I don't know if and they have like the Yaris, or lower end brand they had for Scions. So like
Scions, yeah.
I'd be curious to see how you attack all three and keep the brand consistency. I've always thought about having a second real estate company as more of a flat fee.
We've considered that too.
Yeah, so that'd be cool.
Yeah,
cool.
and like right now, I do a flat fee. Nobody ever takes me up on it. I go, yeah, we'll do it for flat fee. It's just 50%, but you pay it up front. Nobody ever wants to take on the risk. The client doesn't want to risk their money. They'd rather pay twice as much money and not have uncertainty. Well, that's what you're paying me for. You're paying me twice as much to deal with your uncertainty. And it's easy for me to justify my commission when I put it from them paying it now. They're like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't either, And you want me to be really honest? Pay me up front. I'll be the most honest guy you've ever met, But you're also taking away the human carrot. You want a sales team, I think, to have a carrot in front of them. Not all of us are motivated by carrots, but good salespeople are.
Yeah, for sure.
So true. So true.
All right, Wayne, let him rip.
I mean, man, I don't even know if I want to ask mine anymore. But here we go. I got 4. Where's the best barbecue?
God, man, that's so tough. We have
in
so
the
much
country
barbecue.
Or his area?
No, in his area.
Yeah, I'm in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I'm a Gates guy. We've got spicy, tangy, sour, sweet. We have so much barbecue here. I really don't know how much we have here. The American Royal does an event, and I bet there's 600 different people that come and compete. When I go on the road, I never order barbecue, because barbecue is like, well, it was on the grill and it comes with a cup of sauce. Our barbecue is a different experience.
It really is. That's it. I'm coming and we're going on a tour. All right. Yeah. Chiefs or Royals? Chiefs or Royals?
It's Chiefs right now.
There you go. All right. Sneakers or dress shoes?
I'm switching to sneakers lately. I think I'm a late adapter.
Welcome.
I'm a late adapter.
What's the one app you can't live without? What's an app you use daily that helps?
I mean, it's honestly ChatGPT. It's my best friend.
Amen. What's your best productivity hack?
Besides ChatGPT?
Yeah.
my best productivity hack is my main assistant, Anne. She told me to stop trying to solve the problem, instead bring the bring the problem to her and let her come up with the solution. She's more of an engineer than I am. I recognize the problem. I can go, why are we doing this? Wouldn't it be cool if we could have a car that flew? And she's the one that goes, here's 5 ways of making a car fly. And I don't have to spend all my time doing it. So,
and is that's your assistant? Is she in person? Who
she's
is
Philippines.
That?
That's Philippines.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. She runs a team of 9 right now. Plus, yeah, she runs 2 different companies with me, getting ready to be 3. Amazing girl.
That's incredible. All right. I love it. Brad, any final thoughts?
No, it's always reassuring to hear somebody like yourself, Justin, that's going through the same waves as everybody else, but you're doing it with, ingenuity and some creativity. But at the end of the day, it's with the customer at heart. So like, that is always refreshing. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation today, because sometimes we lose sight of that and we wonder what the hell we're doing, but keep doing it, man. Keep doing it for all of us, please.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, like, real quick, one of the things I did recently is we gave up our indie brokerage. So I stood in that seat for a few years, and I had to look at it and go, what was actually important to me about that? Once the ego wore off, I'm as guilty as anybody wanting to have their own brand and their all that. And ultimately, it made sense for us to live in the lane that gives me goosebumps and outsource the rest. So when I first got into real estate, you looked at all the different brands as if they were sports teams, and you're going to be part of the Yankees, you're going to be on the Royals or whatever. And people are loyal to a fault to these brands that are they're just logos. Ultimately, every office is different. When you get to the position of being a broker and you're in that position and you realize all the stuff you have to build on the front end, recruiting, the training, the back end, I started looking at it and going, for a $50,000 cap, I couldn't hire a person to provide what was already built. And so we decided last week, we inked it to make a move. Now, in my market, there's a lot of our competitors that think I'm crazy. Why would you do that? There's so much criticism that goes around. And I think it comes from the vantage point of outsourcing and again, just learning to stay in my lane, asking myself what's actually important. And when you usually get deep down, you find out that insecurity is generally what drives a lot of our decisions. And if you can identify that, well, having my brand with my name on it makes me feel secure, and the lack of that was insecurity. And then you go, what was actually insecure about that? And you get very clear about it.
Yeah.
So like, if I was going to give anybody like a final thought and advice, Joe Stump, he teaches this thing called the 5-6-7. He's an old real estate coach from the early 2000s, late 90s. He had the house on the beach, the Ferrari. Now he lives up in Northern California and does yurt classes for real estate agents, breath work and yoga. I went there. I was so stressed out so I went there. But he teaches this thing called the 5-6-7. And basically it's just asking yourself, what about till you get down to level 7. And generally when you get to 5, 6, or 7, you find out there's this core emotion that's helping you make this decision. And for me, it's often insecurity, and I think a lot of us that are successful have I'm not enough, which I definitely have. If you go talk to my therapist, my mantra I'm supposed to work on is I'm enough, right? And I think most successful people struggle with, now I'm here, I still don't feel like enough. I still don't feel like I'm enough. But I use that 5-6-7 all the time to identify the emotion that's actually driving the decision. And if I can talk to myself about the, very binary emotion, then I can usually make a logical decision and get that emotion out of the way. So that would be my final tip for anybody. Look up the 5-6-7 on YouTube and start using that with your kids, with your wife. And next thing you know, I think you'll be a lot clearer on where you want to be.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for letting me fall down some rabbit holes.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.